Who's getting cooked tonight? We shall see. Bang, bang, Southern Fried Gang. Welcome in to Southern Fried Sports this evening. No, there's no episode number, and it's because the next episode is going to be episode number 50. And so that's going to be kind of a big deal. So I want to make sure to really bring it on that episode. So for tonight, we're just going to fry up NASCAR a little bit. We just finished up a guest appearance on the Fast Break Show with Mark Livingston and Coach Tiff Sarden of the PC Blue Hose. I got to talk about some of my experiences down there in Clinton, South Carolina. I've always been a huge PC fan. Always will be. Always have been. Always will be. Coach Greg Nybert, good buddy Sean back in the day. Man, just fantastic times, though, over there in Clinton and at PC. And so, like I said, welcome into Southern Fried Sports. Let's get our shout-outs out of the way. Don't forget greenvillesportsmedia.com, furmanjoust.com. Furman blew away Mercer last night. 24-point win. It got a little close in the second half, so I stayed longer than I anticipated. But, yeah, they ended up blowing that one out of the water. 5 players scored double figures. They had, I think, 3 players in the first half score double-figure points, and I hadn't seen one until late in the second half, every game that I had been to. Literally, it took to, late in the second half for anybody to score double figures. Last night, they had 3 very early, 5 overall. What a game for the Furman Paladins. They look to be clicking coming down the stretch. Don't forget Beef and Rib, Arden's Burger and Grill, Hyundai of Anderson, W Energy Drinks, and like I mentioned, we did the Fast Break Show, and so that's a perfect time to segue. I'm doing double duty tonight, as is NASCAR with their Daytona duels. And I just said, I'm going to fry somebody tonight, and it's going to be NASCAR. I understand the charter system. I understand provisionals. I understand qualifying on time to make the race. But here's what I also understand. Helio Castro Neves has never driven a NASCAR in his life. Maybe he did some simulation practices, but none of that can actually prepare you for when the cars wreck like they did in the Duel 1. And Helio would have been okay had he not tried to turn the car down on the apron in the middle of the turn. Caused him to spin out, lose control, hit the wall, ruined his day. Now they got to get a backup car out. But guess what? He's guaranteed into the race. Why? Because of NASCAR's charter system. Trackhouse Racing has a charter for that number 91 car. Therefore, it doesn't matter who goes into the car, they will be in the race. It's all well and good, except for when you're talking about 2 previous champions of NASCAR, Martin Truex Jr. and Jimmy Johnson, having to race their way in to the biggest race of the year. And isn't that weird? Isn't it weird that NASCAR has their biggest race at the beginning of the year? I mean, think about it. The NBA title game, the World Series, the Daytona 500 is bigger than the championship race. That determines who won the entire season. Make that make sense. You can't. NASCAR's got to figure out a way, not necessarily to detour attention away from the Daytona 500, but they've got to figure out a way to make the end cap as much as the opening race. The championship race cannot be less attractive than the first race of the season. And maybe their ratings show it. Maybe that's the way NASCAR is designed. They get their peak amount of viewers in race numero uno. Race number 1, they get their peak viewership. And then it's just downhill from there? No, that makes no sense. I get that Helio Castroneves will bring you more viewership to the race. But at the expense of Martin Truex Jr. and Jimmy Johnson? I mean, come on, really? I mean, granted, they got into the race. Martin Truex Jr. and Jimmy Johnson, they were able to qualify on time. They're in the race. So it's all well and good. But had either one of those not qualified on time, Helio Castroneves, who had never driven a NASCAR and wrecked his car all on his own, basically, by trying to turn down to the apron too quickly and then spinning up into the wall, he ruined his own day, and he needed those 60 laps in that first Daytona duel. Excuse me. That Bubba Wallace ended up winning. You want to know who else made the race, though? And this is big for NASCAR. It's huge for NASCAR. Junior Motorsports. First ever attempt making a cup level race. They've been down in the Xfinity Series. They've dominated. I'm actually quite surprised that Dale Earnhardt Jr. hasn't attempted a cup race already. But they did, in fact, make it with their number 40 Travelers Whiskey car. And I don't think this is the last we will hear or see of Junior Motorsports in the Cup. You know who else we haven't heard the last of yet? Kyle Busch. Never won the Daytona 500. Won a ton of races. Absolute ton of races. Kyle Busch has won. But never the Daytona 500. As a matter of fact, he took the white flag last year, leading the race, and didn't win it. That's happened to many people. Leading the last lap at Daytona is not where you want to be normally. You want to be like second, third, fourth, maybe, somewhere in that range. You don't want to be leading on the last lap at the Daytona 500 because things are going to get wrecked behind you. And so we've got the second Daytona duel underway. Denny Hamlin, Austin Cindric, Joey Logano, Kyle Larson, Alex Bowman, Gilliland, Keselowski, Buescher, Blaney, and Gregson make out the top 10 so far. Only 2 laps in. But am I wrong here, y'all? I want to hear some comments. I want to see some comments. Am I wrong? Is it crazy that 2 potential previous champions of NASCAR almost got left out of this race for Helio Castroneves? I know it brings more eyeballs, but the Daytona 500 doesn't need eyeballs like I just told y'all. It's the most viewed race of the year. You want to put Helio Castroneves in a race? Fine. Do it in April. I mean, the NASCAR season only lasts from February to November. What? You've got plenty of time to get this dude in the race, NASCAR. Give the guaranteed spot to a previous champion. Martin Truex over Jimmy Johnson. I mean, Jimmy Johnson might be washed. Martin Truex, though, just retired. Dude still got it. And a lot of fans would have been furious had Martin Truex Jr. not made on time. They would have been out of their mind. Speaking of going out of your mind, ladies and gentlemen, I'm about to go out of my mind. College baseball. Ooh, man, I thought things might slow down during college football season, but then I kind of remembered that a lot of my best and first takes came during college baseball season last year when I was screaming at the top of my lungs for the Gamecocks to fire Mark Kingston. Yeah, I was. I don't care. I'll tell you. I was calling for his job. I don't want to see anybody fired lose their job. I mean, obviously that's a bad situation. But I was over the inconsistency of the Gamecocks baseball program. And so that brings me, though, what are some of the biggest keys for the Gamecocks baseball program to improve this year? Is it pitching? Is it hitting? Is it everything? Because to me, I think it's a little bit of everything. Right, Gamecocks? We need to see an improvement everywhere. Number one, you can't live and die by the home run. You can't live and die by it. You have to put the ball in play. You have to make the defense make plays in baseball. Obviously, you don't want to make them all routine. You don't want to hit the ball right at the shortstop. But if you get the shortstop moving left to right, you get the shortstop going here and there, or the third baseman, you might create an error if you're rushing them. You got to get players on base. You can't live and die by a solo home run. You can't go strikeout, home run. That's one of the biggest issues, though, that I've had with some of the Gamecocks over the last few years. It seems they either strike out or hit a home run. There is no in between. Can they develop consistency, though? They're pitching. The starters are going to be Eskew, Becker, and then there's one more that he named. Give me a minute. I'll find that name in a moment. Eskew, great starter. I feel like they need to get some dudes, though. Maybe they did in the portal. I don't know. Can the Gamecocks go 14-16 in SEC play? I mean, that's proven to be good enough to get you into the tournament. But I think I want to see more. I want to see more than that. Mark agrees. That's their biggest problem. They're always swinging for the fences. There is no situational hitting. Whatever happened to bunting? Whatever happened to stealing a base? Whatever happened to hit and run? I feel like that was one of King's. He did do a lot of hit and runs, but it never worked. It's got to be the perfect situation, the perfect runner. You've got to trust the guy at bat, first of all, more than anything. And Kingston, he just always felt like he was disconnected from the team one way or another. It just seemed like they lacked chemistry, culture, commitment, camaraderie, coaching, all of the dirty C words that I reference all the time here on Southern Fried Sports. It just felt like they were going through the motions. You know what I mean? Does that make sense? Said every person explaining something to someone ever. Does that make sense? Probably not. Probably not. Hopefully, though, the defense, they did make a ton of errors. That's another thing. It's just like turnovers in basketball that we talked about with Mark earlier. Turnovers will kill you in a basketball game. You know what else will kill you? Errors in a baseball game. Because guess what happens? You make one error. Next thing after that, big base hit, home run, walk. It just gives the other team momentum. Same thing in football. Turn over the football, throw an interception, fumble the ball. You give the other team unwanted momentum. And then you find yourself scraping, scrapping, trying to do a little too much. And guess what? You make another error. And so I just need to see way more consistency out of the Gamecocks baseball program, top to bottom. Coaching, hitting, pitching, defense, fielding, throwing, catching, whatever you want to say. Mark says, I remember back in the day of the Bash Brothers, Canseco, McGuire. They were great, but Ricky Henderson leading off, getting on base, still in second, is what made their lives easier. Absolutely. If you got somebody in scoring position, to me, and see, I was never a home run hitter. I was the Ricky Henderson. I had 33 base hits my senior year, y'all. 33. You want to know how many of them were bunts? And I think I've told you all this before. 10. 10 of my 33 hits my senior year were bunts. All right. I was getting on first. And guess what? I'm taking second. Mess around, I might even take third. So, stealing is a lost art. Granted, catchers have gotten way better. But stealing has become a lost art. Intricacies of the game has become a lost art in baseball. That's why the MLB made the bases bigger. Shorten down the distance a little bit. You saw Ronald Acuna smoke the stolen base record. 40-70, I think it was, a couple of years ago. I mean, it can't just be hitting and pitching and catching. You've got to do something more to win in baseball. Same thing goes for football. Same thing goes for all sports. You got to do something that's a little more creative. And that's what we try to do here on Southern Fried Sports. You got to do something to set yourself apart, right? Right. I think we all can agree on that one. I question, Mark says, I think Paul Mainieri was a great hire. I think coaching will be so much better. I questioned the hire at first. I will admit. When I heard Paul Mainieri, I almost had a pulmonary. I did some research, thought about it. He's a great coach. I think he is just the one, though, that could possibly turn this thing around. And I would love to say, though, as much as I love Ray Tanner, I would love to say that I trusted him hiring baseball coaches. But we had Chad Holbrook follow Ray Tanner when he became AD. Didn't make it very long. I think firing him was a mistake. And then we hired Kingston. Obviously a mistake. Hopefully Ray Tanner got this one right on his way out. Hopefully he got the softball hire right on his way out. Only time will tell. I'll tell you who's underway with a great season. Speaking of Gamecocks, Landon Powell, y'all, former Gamecock, North Greenville University head coach. Heard an interview with him today. I love everything he had to say. Camaraderie. He used like all of my dirty C words. It was fantastic. Chemistry, camaraderie, culture, commitment. It was fantastic. I was like, oh, he knows what's up. Landon Powell, though, their team is undefeated. They literally just beat USC Beaufort the other day, like 29-3, I think the score was. They've been out to Hawaii. They've had a bonding trip there. And so, yeah, shout out to Landon Powell. Also just inducted into the South Carolina Hall of Fame. Interesting tidbit of information. Landon Powell, South Carolina Hall of Fame. Even though he's from North Carolina, it's all right. You were a great Gamecock, sir. You were a great Gamecock, Landon Powell, and we love you here in the Greenville area, man, and you're doing great work with that baseball program you've got going up there. I heard him say today he has, I think it was 16 or 17 pitchers that can all run it up to 90 miles an hour. at a Division II school, no less. I don't want to play him. Nope. Nah. I don't want to see 90. I don't want to see 90 plus. I mean, I could hit it maybe. Back in the day, not now. I could hit it back then, not now. But no, I don't want to see that day in and day out. Anybody that plays North Greenville is going to be in trouble, y'all. And so, y'all, I have already fried NASCAR this evening. Helio Castroneves being in is a travesty. Junior Motorsports, though, doing great things on their debut. Let's see if we can take a little break. We're going to reset for a moment. I'm going to finish up with one question. And then we'll do some desserts. And then we're going to slide on out of here for the evening. Going to make like a baby and slide out. Don't forget Greenville Sports Media, Furman Joust, W Energy Drinks, Arden's Burger and Grill, Beef and Rib, and the Fast Break Show with Coach Sarden and Mark Kingston. We'll be right back. Ladies and gentlemen, everybody drop what you're doing right now. Drop what you're doing and say hello to the main man, Gamecock Chuck. Appreciate you being here, big dog. I just finished up talking about Gamecock baseball and what I need to see out of them. I will go more in depth into that very soon. But as for now, I wanted to talk about a little NFL story that came out today. Obviously, what's up? Rudy, Sweep the League TV. Y'all check them out as well. Make sure to hit subscribe. Also, don't forget to hit subscribe on Mark. Don't forget to hit subscribe on Chuck. Don't forget to hit subscribe on Sweep the League. If I did, my bad. It's close. Livingston, Kingston, close enough. Hopefully you're a better baseball coach than he was, though. Bang. Add Mark Kingston to the list of getting fried here tonight on Southern Fried Sports. That's why I like the comments, y'all, because we can get a little funny jab in here every once in a bit. And speaking of funny jabs, how about this one for a jab? Aaron Glenn decided there is not enough room in New York for two people with the first name Aaron, as he sends Aaron Rodgers packing his bags by delivering just a few ultimatums, one of which was mandatory means mandatory. Don't come around here talking about you going to Egypt to ride on a camel. Don't come around here talking about you can't be here Tuesday because you got the Pat McAfee show appearance. If you're going to be part of the team, you're going to be one of the 53. And Aaron Rodgers at that point said, yeah, I think I'll just take my ball and go home. And at this point, y'all, literally where else is Aaron Rodgers going to go? All right, because he's supposedly a Hall of Fame quarterback already. So where could Aaron go? The Tennessee Titans? Not if he wants to make the playoffs. Pittsburgh Steelers? I highly doubt Mike Tomlin wants that train wreck. Could he maybe end up with the Vikings? Do the Brett Favre thing? No. I don't see that happening. They already got J.J. McCarthy, who is primed and ready to start next year. They still have Sam Darnold and Daniel Jones technically on the roster. So Aaron to Minnesota, no. Could he go back to Green Bay? No. Could he go to the Saints? No. Could he go to the Jaguars? No, because apparently there was a story that came out today that Pittsburgh had called the Jaguars about trading for Trevor Lawrence, but that turned out to be completely false because Jaguars don't even have a GM currently, and there's no way that an interim GM is going to negotiate a deal to deal the franchise quarterback away. So where, oh where could Aaron go? At this point, I think his best bet is the Raiders. And how funny is that? Just made the Jets trade for Davante Adams from the Raiders last year for him just to go to the Raiders. So, like, Davante could have just stayed. Davante could have just stayed for the Raiders, and then Aaron could have just went and joined them next year. Oh, man, oh, man, oh, man. Aaron Rodgers, what have you gotten yourself into, dude? Where are you going to play? Please, anybody tell me. Gamecock Chuck, he says his recliner. Yeah, exactly. He's going to take his ball, go home. And I think it's going to be on his couch. Cleveland Browns? Cleveland Browns, maybe. But even then, he's not going to contend. He wants to go somewhere and contend for playoffs, right? He wants to get another Super Bowl, right? I mean, you play to win the game. So where? And again, I ask, where could Aaron go? Because Aaron Glenn said there ain't room for both of us in New York. Man, oh man, oh man, oh man. Seriously though, where does Aaron Rodgers go? I don't see him being on a team week 1 next year. If you want me to give my honest opinion, honestly, I do not think Aaron Rodgers will be on a roster next year. I don't. I really do not believe it for a minute. Now, could he get signed maybe week 4, week 5 when somebody gets hurt? Possibly. Mark says the Jets was the only place he could have went with the talent to make the playoffs. Nowhere else is even close. I mean, and the Jets aren't even really that close. I mean, honestly. I mean, you take Aaron Rodgers away from the Jets. I mean, granted, they got some pieces, but they still haven't done much with it. Gamecock Chuck says maybe Detroit. Yeah, but what about Goff? I mean, he ain't going anywhere yet. I don't see Aaron Rodgers and Jared Goff being on the same roster. Aaron Rodgers clearly has too much pride, so he's not going to swallow it and go be a backup. He's also not going to swallow it and go play for a team that's not going to make the playoffs. In my opinion. I could be wrong. Maybe we're just all wrong about Aaron Rodgers. I doubt it. Very seriously. He's arrogant. He's cocky. He thinks he knows more than everybody. I mean, for the love of God, the dude hosted Jeopardy. Hey, maybe bang, bang, bang. That's where Aaron Rodgers is going to be next year. I figured it out, y'all. See, we'll talk about it and we'll get there. He's going to be hosting Jeopardy. Aaron Rodgers next year hosting Jeopardy. Yep, that's what it's going to be. Gamecock Chuck says he's not sold that Goff can get it done. Hey, that's valid. Very valid. But so you're going to kick Goff to the curb. Oh, man, that's... I just don't see that one playing out, though, Chuck. I hear you. I agree. But I mean, Detroit's going to be like, all right, Goff, you did great bringing us back from the depths of HE double hockey sticks. We're going to kick you to the curb. We're going to bring in Aaron Rodgers, who at times last year didn't really look all that great. Pete Digits, what's up, my guy? No one will be willing to pay the price for his services, except for Jeopardy. I just told y'all that. Jeopardy. Jeopardy will pay for it. That's embarrassing. The Jets were closer with Zach Wilson than they were with Aaron Rodgers. And only your comment made me think about that, Mark. I mean, the Jets were closer to the playoffs with Zach Wilson, the Cougar Hunter. Hey, he's a good Cougar Hunter too, man. He slaying Cougars. The Jets were close with Zach Wilson. Great receivers, running back, very good defense. Yep. And then they fired Salah. And, they signed Aaron and then fired Salah, and everything just kind of went downhill after that. But they were closer with Zach Wilson than they were with Aaron Rodgers. Mark says to Chuck, Detroit loves golf. He's not going anywhere. Speaking of Detroit, I hear that's going to be the opening game next year, y'all. Mark, you're a Eagles fan. I hear it's going to be the Eagles, and I hear it's going to be the Lions. P digits. Chuck just called golf Dan Marino. Dan Marino, man, he was a good one too. Yeah. Aaron Rodgers can go be the QB coach at Clemson, man. That's a good one. That's funny. That is funny. And Gamecock Chuck, of course, just call it how you see it, my man. That's all we're supposed to do. That is all we're supposed to do. Call it like we see it. Be honest, be kind, and let's just have a good time, which we have done here on Southern Fried Sports so far this evening. We're running out of content, y'all, very quickly. I'm going to hit y'all with a few desserts. Hey, Gamecock Chuck, are you familiar with Limestone University in Gaffney? Because they're doing a thing right now. It's like a championship fundraiser. I forget exactly what the name of it was. But they talked to several people from Limestone yesterday on the radio station. And I want you guys all to know this. This is the craziest stat of the day on Southern Fried Sports. Limestone University has 800 student athletes. And that's not an exact figure. I think it's a little over 800. They only have like a total enrollment of 1,500. And so their entire, like 50% of their entire enrollment is student athletes at little old Limestone University in Gaffney, South Carolina. And I thought that was absolutely intriguing. I understand completely why they need to raise money. 800 student athletes. They have like over 200 players on their football team. They don't do full scholarships or anything like that. So there's a lot of aid. And here's another tidbit about Limestone University. Jericho Cotchery, former New York Jet, is the head coach at Limestone University for their football program. And the athletic director yesterday, he said, man, yeah, sometimes I walk by and I pass Jericho in the hall and I give him a dap. And then he said he kind of fanboys after that. He's like, man, I just dapped up Jericho Cotchery. Isn't that really cool? I mean, hey, last night at the Furman game, I got a selfie with Nigel Robertson of WYFF News 4, who does fantastic work, by the way. He's going to be highlighting one of his students from Furman. He teaches at Furman. So he was at the game filming a piece last night, and he posed and waved in one of my videos on YouTube. Y'all can check out the shorts. Nigel Roberts was there. We had tons of interaction. We gained like 5 subscribers last night. It was a great time. Furman absolutely blew out Mercer. And I think that Mark and Chuck and P Digits and Brian and all of you guys who listen to the show, Poppy, appreciate you. I think we've blown out this episode of Southern Fried Sports. And with all of that in mind, we have a huge weekend ahead. Oh, Jericho also played for the Panthers. I forgot about that, but yeah, you were right. He did. P Digit says, hold my beer. I tell you what, I'm about to hold the remote, changing it over to the Daytona dual race. Like I said, we already cooked NASCAR this evening. We got a huge weekend coming up, as it is my son's 5th birthday party, and he's got a baseball evaluation Saturday morning. So, yeah, y'all give me some well wishes. Send some love over to Trip Man. We're going to go try to play baseball. Could be a long day. And he's got a birthday party. So, long day coming up Saturday. We'll see y'all again very soon. Like I said, huge episode. Episode number 50, Southern Fried Sports, will be coming up soon. If you have any ideas about how I can use the number 50 in my episode, send it over on X, on Facebook, or right here in the comment section. Y'all be blessed, not stressed. Just be kind to one another, dang it. And let's have some great college baseball and NASCAR.